Who can honestly say they love what they do for a living? Well, I can. This guy right here. For the past 20 years, I've been a mortgage sales professional. I started as a rookie loan originator where I was lost. I was scared. I was broke. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. But you know what? I was bitten by the bug, and I fell in love with the industry. And when I look back today, I can't even put into words what this industry has meant to me, my family, and all the men and women that I've been able to bring into the industry in support, whether I was supporting them as their mentor, as their coach, or as their employer. And not a week goes by when I'm not asked, hey Dustin, do you think the mortgage industry is still a great career? Well, I have a pretty loaded answer. And that answer hasn't changed a whole lot in the past 20 years, but I definitely have to tweak it and adjust it as every year passes. And in today's episode of the DO Show, we're going to dive deep into whether or not a career in the mortgage industry would make sense for somebody looking for a career like I have found for the past 20 years. Check this out. What's up, y'all? Dustin Owen here with another episode of the DO Show. This is going to be an episode where I'm extremely passionate because it's the one thing I know just about better than anything else. It's my career, it's my passion, it's what I've dedicated the past 20 plus years to. It's the one and only time where I feel like, hey, you know what? I'm the subject matter expert. This is the one time people should slow down, take a step back and listen, because there's a good chance they don't have my experience. It's the one time where I take out the phrase, in my humble opinion, and I replace it with, in my humble experience, before I give my answer. And what I want to dive into is the profession of a mortgage loan originator, also known as a mortgage broker, a VP of lending, a mortgage advisor, a loan originator. We all do the same thing. We help men and women purchase homes when they need financing. We help people who already own homes and already have mortgages obtain new debt instruments, aka home loans, in order to position themselves better financially moving forward. And I remember when I got into business in 2004, someone advising me that he didn't think it was a good time to get into the mortgage industry. Well, you know what? I still got in, and it still worked out really well for me. And we fast forward 20 plus years, and people are now saying, I don't think now's a good time to get into the mortgage industry. And then they give their reasons. I'm going to spend the next 20 to 25 minutes with you discussing why I think a career in the mortgage industry is going to make sense for those that it makes sense for. You see, it's not a profession for all, just like teaching is not a profession for all. Becoming a nurse or a doctor is not a profession for all. This is a profession that is highly rewarding, both emotionally, mentally, as well as monetarily, but it's one that not all people were cut out for it, and that's okay. But if you are one of those people, or your adult child is one of those people, or your friend's neighbor's ex-boyfriend is one of those people, you're going to want to tune in because it's a highly rewarding profession. I know that because I look at the life I've been able to live, the life I've been able to give my children. I look at how I'm going to be able to retire early, all the people I've met and the lives I've impacted. And I can't imagine anyone could have been luckier than me when it came to their career, because I have totally outkicked my coverage. I have reaped way more than I probably deserve, at which point I feel this need and this power and this calling to give back. And I give back with shows like this, shows like the Loan Officer Podcast, and things that I'm doing on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. So tune in, check it out. I'm going to go through the top 5 things you should know before you enter the mortgage industry. I'm going to cover who does well and who doesn't do well, whether or not AI will take this profession from you, or how you would work with AI to become more pliable, more successful. We're going to discuss what types of people fail, what types of people succeed, and I'll even give you the 5 steps needed in order to successfully launch your career. So let's break this down. Why this career matters, who it's for, how to get started, and what it really takes to win. So let's start with why this career matters. Well, homeownership is the number 1, number 2, and number 3 best way to generate wealth in America, bar none. Homeowners are 70 times more wealthy than non-homeowners. So when you're a mortgage broker or a mortgage loan originator, you are helping people achieve the dream of homeownership. Think about this. Most people will never sit down and speak or consult with a financial advisor. And the reason for this is that most financial advisors won't even sit down and talk to someone unless they have over $100,000 of investable assets. Investable assets are not things like the equity in your home, or a kid's college savings plan, or a 401k, or a IRA. Investable assets is literally the money you have left over after you've purchased your home, contributed to your 401k, have put money aside for your kids' college savings, etc. And most Americans, they don't even have enough to do 3 or 4 of the things that I just mentioned, maybe 1 or 2. Therefore, they rely on mortgage loan originators and mortgage brokers to be the closest thing to a financial advisor. We are the men and women that can teach them about budgeting. We are the men and women that can show them how to qualify for home loan financing so they can generate all that wealth through home ownership. We are the men and women who can teach them a thing or two about credit and how to improve your credit score. We are also the men and women who can recommend home buyers and homeowners to other financial service providers such as CPAs and financial advisors and life insurance salespeople. Because 65% of Americans want to or will end up owning a home, a mortgage loan originator or a mortgage broker, they very much are seen as financial literacy coaches when they do the job on an elite level. I'm not saying every mortgage broker is elite or every loan officer at any bank or credit union is elite, but when you study those that do this at an elite level, they end up becoming more than just someone who can help you get a home loan. They actually become a financial literacy coach. There are certain parts of being a mortgage loan originator that you just can't explain without telling a story. So let me tell you a story about 2 clients of mine that just stand out. It feels like it was just yesterday when I closed on their transactions, but it wasn't. One was 20 years ago, the other one was 10 years ago. And just like teachers can't remember all students, loan originators cannot remember all of their clients and all of their customers, at least not when they're doing thousands of loans over a lifetime. However, these 2 stand out, and here's why. It was 20 years ago. The borrower's name, Troy. Troy couldn't have been more than 19 or 20 years old. He was buying his first house. He was newly married. He was not a college graduate. He barely got through high school, but he was a hard worker and a good human. And Troy had saved up enough money by working a part-time job that he had his 3% to put down. But I had to say to the realtor, Troy has enough money for his down payment, but he doesn't have enough for his closing costs. So I'll need you to negotiate with the seller for Troy to get a $5,000 closing cost credit. That way he can purchase this home. And Troy did. 10 years later, Troy reached out to me. And you know what? He had that home paid off. In fact, not only was it paid off, but he was ready to buy his next house. And Troy didn't sell this initial first home he ever purchased. Nope, he rented it out. And then what he did is he took the rent money that he earned and he applied it towards this next purchase. So now, because Troy was making double payments, his second home that he ended up buying for $300,000 was paid off in 10 years. So we fast forward 20 years, and guess where Troy sits? He's 40 years old. He has a rental property now worth about 300 grand that's spitting off $1,500 a month in personal income. And he has the home that he and his wife and now 2 children live in, and that one too is paid off. And although he bought it for 300 grand 10 years ago, this home is now worth $500,000. So when it comes to equity, Troy is almost a millionaire. He has no debt and owns a rental property that's income producing. Stories like that are all over the state of Florida. They're all over the Southeast. They're all over the country, Spokane, the Key West, and everywhere in between. Then I have another one. Now this one was for a college buddy of mine, and my college buddy reached out to me. Now the one thing he did really well is he bought a house. The minute he graduated college and he found a professional career with stable income, he purchased a home. But after 8 years of working at that particular first job out of college, he went out on his own. He started his own company. And when he started his own company, his income was cut in half. And any money he was making, he was reinvesting back in the business. Well, 2 years into owning his own business, he found himself in a little bit of a tight spot. He had $30,000 of credit card debt. He still had his student loans. He had his wife's car payment. He had his car payment. And he wasn't sleeping good at night. And by the way, he just had his first baby and could barely afford diapers, let alone to put money away for a college savings plan. However, he did one thing right. He bought a home the minute he was gainfully employed with consistent, stable income. And he bought that home for $130,000, but 10 years later, it was worth $360,000. We were able to help him tap into his equity, where he paid off his credit card. He paid off his student loans. He paid off his car payment, his wife's car payment, put money aside into a Roth IRA, put money aside into a 529 college savings plan, and put 15 grand in the bank so that he always had a rainy day fund. And you see, had Rob not been able to purchase a home early on in his career, and had his home not gained value the way that it did, and by the way, he paid down his loan over those 10 years, he had all of that equity where we were able to leverage a cash out refinance and allow Rob to consolidate some debt, better himself financially. He cut over $1,000 out of his monthly outgoing expenses. He now sleeps better at night. He gets along with his spouse better. He's a better dad, a more present friend. All because why? Because he had a good loan officer for a friend that when he reached out to in a time of need was able to show him how to structure a new loan to consolidate debt, pay off the one mortgage, give him a new loan, and more importantly, give him a new outlook and a new lease on life. So when people ask me, why do I love the mortgage industry? These are just 2 examples of why I love it. All right, so now that I have you excited about becoming your next city's top producing mortgage broker, let's talk about, I don't know, who wins and who washes out. You see, as I said earlier, this is not a profession for everybody. So who does well? I have found people who do well in this profession would also do well as life insurance salespeople. They would do well as financial advisors. They would do well selling real estate, whether that was commercial or residential. The people who do well are entrepreneurs at heart. Even if they work for the largest mortgage company in the country, they understand that they work for first name, last name, comma, LLC, a division of insert your favorite mortgage company. A successful loan originator is someone who dominates 4th grade math. Look, you gotta be good at math, but not Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, or even geometry. This is 4th grade math. The person who does well loves personal finance. And I'm not saying personal finance at the Goldman Sachs level, where you're working on Wall Street and you're a part of these major acquisitions and mergers. No, I'm talking personal finance. Things like understanding what it takes to have good credit, understanding what a basic budget looks like, understanding how compound interest works. And because so much of being a loan originator is problem solving, I tend to joke this probably isn't the best for anybody that doesn't have above average intelligence. A successful loan originator understands it's their job to get a lead. So many fail because they fail to recognize that this is a job first about marketing, about networking, about getting out and making sales calls, not because you ever have to sell someone on something that they didn't already want. You're selling yourself, you're building relationships, you're trying to make yourself the most known person in your city, your county, or your state. You want to be the source of information. You want to be the subject matter expert. You want to be the man or the woman that people can trust because they know you will take great care of them. And taking great care of someone is making sure that they understand that you know there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all mortgage, that mortgages must be tailor-made to match everyone's specific financial needs, wants, and goals. If you don't like people, there's a good chance you won't be any good at this profession. The I dotting and the T crossing and the number crunching, we can leave a lot of that to the computers and the robots. However, the empathy and the understanding of human emotion and the connection that's required, that's very difficult even in today's day and age for AI or a robot to overcome. And lastly, always keep in mind, this is a sales job. It's selling and servicing, but you can't service clients you don't have. So the first thing you have to do is go out and sell yourself so that you can build relationships, and those relationships can produce leads, or what we call referrals. Once you have those referrals, now you have an opportunity to serve. But until you have those referral relationships, please understand, you will be selling. Here's the truth, not everyone's cut out for this job. They just aren't. So before you start envisioning yourself as your city's next big top producer, let's do a quick inventory on who wins versus who washes out. Now let's jump into who wins and who washes out. Here's the truth. Not everyone makes it. Not everyone loves it. What you have to understand is that this is a service business. And if you don't love people, you shouldn't be in this industry, because this industry is all about serving others. It's not a finance job. Sure, personal finance is involved, as is problem solving, but this is a sales job. This is a marketing job. First and foremost, you have to get your personal brand out in the market. You have to connect with the most amount of people. I coach this for a living. He or she with the most friends wins. Your net worth is the sum of your network. You can know every guideline possible, every loan program available, but if no one knows you exist, then you'll have no one to serve. All of that experience, all of those skills will just go to waste. Successful LOs, I'm talking those that are above average, good, great, and all the way to elite, they love the sales aspect. They love knowing that they are going to eat what they kill. They put a lot of money and resources into understanding marketing, networking, and sales strategies that actually work. I remember going back to the early days of my career. And even in the early days, when I didn't have any money in the bank, I was working odd jobs and doing manual labor on the weekends just to try to bring in a couple of bucks to help pay the bills at home. I remember working open houses on the weekend. I remember dedicating $50 per every 2 weeks to go towards paying for coffee appointments so I could get face-to-face and belly-to-belly with real estate agents, because real estate agents make some of the best referral sources. I remember like it was yesterday completing the 12-week challenge. And the 12-week challenge is something I put my coaching students through still today. Imagine this. For 12 weeks, I'm going to want you to send 12 cold emails, make 12 cold calls per day so that you can schedule one meeting with a stranger, to go on one meeting with a stranger for the sole purpose of learning about them, figuring out ways that you can bring them value in hopes that you like them, they like you, and ultimately they have clients who are looking to purchase homes and need a good lender. That's the type of stuff that you're doing, especially in those early days. So now let's jump into what kind of person does extremely well as a mortgage loan originator. This is the DNA of a top producer. The people who win in this business have heart, hustle, and hunger. Many of them, I say, are Henrys. That means high energy, not rich yet. They're competitive. They're self-starters. They're problem solvers. More than likely, at some point in their life, they've already been recognized at being the best at something, or at some point in their life, they can tell a really convincing story about how they overcame adversity or how they proved someone wrong who doubted them. These could be team captains in varsity sports. It could be someone who excelled in sales in a different profession. Or it could have been someone who was doubted for being undersized, but it didn't prevent them from working so hard that the coach had to eventually let them on the team. And when they got on the team, they became an all-star. The type of people who do well as mortgage loan originators, they love personal finance. And I'm not saying finance like you're going to be at Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs, working on Wall Street, doing massive merger and acquisition deals. I'm talking understanding the basics of budgeting, of how compound interest works. What does a 401k actually do? And how does credit scoring work? The ideal mortgage professional loves what homeownership does for other Americans. Whether it's offering a place of safety, pride, security, structure, or the number one way to generate wealth in the U.S. The DNA of a top producer in the mortgage industry also carries that coach stigma with them. There's someone who loves to coach others. They want others to win. They want to pour their knowledge and their experience into their fellow man for the sole purpose of helping them better themselves, as well as the trajectory of their family for future generations to come. All right, so now let's talk about how to get started. The best news is there's no bad way to get started. What matters most is if this career excites you, that you take the first step. I have plenty of friends who got started as an assistant to another originator, whether that's as a loan officer assistant or a processing assistant. They truly learned this profession from the ground floor up. Others got started in a call center before they went out on their own and built out their own book of business. I have some friends that they jumped in head first. They got licensed and they went straight into this profession. No experience, no referral sources, 100% commission. In fact, I'm one of those people. Some people get started working as an in-house lender for a real estate office or an in-house lender for a home builder. Some of those people stay and turn a career out of it. Others use it as a springboard or a launching pad before going out on their own. What's most important is that you get started. What's least important is how you do it. Now, in the very, very, very beginning, here's what you need to do to become a mortgage loan originator. Step one, you have to take the required 20-hour NMLS course. Now, once you take that course, you want to understand that less than 60% pass their exam the first time through. So step two would be for you to find some kind of a study group or study material so that you can increase your odds or your chances of passing the first time that you take the test. I always recommend MLO Study Buddy. You can find a free Facebook group on Facebook. It's called MLO Study Buddy. Now, step three, once you pass your exam, you have to find an employer. Now, some people want to call that a sponsor. Y'all, no one in the industry calls that a sponsor. You're looking for your first career opportunity. You're looking for a branch manager, a sales manager, or a company owner to hire you to bring you into the industry. Now, more than likely, you're not going to know what you're doing, and that's okay. Very few of us did. I tend to tell people, look, it takes 2 years to actually figure out what you're doing. You learn as you grow, you build as you grow. So once you have found your first career opportunity and you're gainfully employed, there's 2 other things that you're probably going to want to consider doing. One, you need some technical training. So if your company's not providing it, you're going to have to go out and seek it on your own. And there are plenty of companies out there that offer technical training. But what you also are going to need is a sales coach or a business coach. And that sales coaching and business coaching is also widely available. In fact, I launched TLOP's Originator Coaching specifically to help people like you get started in the mortgage industry, shorten your learning curve, increase your odds of success by introducing you to the same exact concepts that me and my coaches did to become top producers, and also to teach you what it is that we're doing today strategically to stay on top. So if you made it this far, then we need to get to step 5. And step 5 is when I'm going to talk about what it really takes. This is the part very few people ever want to tell you. All right, so I promised you the cold hard truth. The cold hard truth is this. Being a mortgage broker or a loan originator is not a job, it's a career. And it's a career that you're looking to do for the next 7, 10, 12, 15, 30 years. It's not a side hustle. It's something that I rarely, next to never, recommend someone try to do part-time. Think about this. Not only is it not a job, but you're now an entrepreneur and this is your business. You will only get out of it what you put in. When you're an entrepreneur, I don't care if this is mortgage, I don't care if this is you trying to build a nail salon, a marketing agency, or a food truck. It takes 2 years. Talk to any successful entrepreneur and they will tell you. It takes at least 2 years to build your business, grow your following, learn your craft, and feel comfortable enough that you're going to be consistently closing transactions and earning income. In the beginning, expect long hours, expect little pay, and expect to feel lost, scared, alone. And if you feel those ways, remember, you're not the only person who has ever felt that way. In fact, you're as normal as they come. I remember when I got into the industry, that was the best advice someone could give me. His name was Steve, and Steve said to me, Dustin, if you can't give me 2 years of your life, I cannot guarantee you success. But if you can give me 2 years of your life and do exactly like I tell you to do, I guarantee you, you'll be successful. And I promise you guys, there was plenty of times when I was in month 20 and I was ready to quit. I wanted to throw in the towel. But I thought about that dinner I had with Steve and what Steve told me. And I just said, you know what? I owe it to myself and I owe it to Steve. Last 4 more months. And miraculously, you know what happened after 24 months? I started to find my groove. I started to develop some consistency. And well, the rest is history. Expect to make mistakes, but you need to cherish and celebrate every mistake, because failing is a first attempt in learning. We don't get better when things go our way. We get better when things don't go our way. When they say no pain, no gain, that's not always talking about running harder or lifting heavier weights. Sometimes the pain you feel is, holy crap, you made a mistake. But you're now going to grow from this mistake. It's why we teach our coaching students, we learn as we grow, we build as we grow. Success takes time. I talked about that. 2 years, I tell people. Some it takes 3. But what are you willing to do every day for 8 to 10 hours a day, consistently enough that just by not giving up, you're going to be successful? This career, this industry takes that type of mentality. It takes money to make money. And that's not just a cliche and that's not just a saying. The mortgage industry is something you can get into for minimal out of pocket. Less money than it takes to become a nurse, less money than it takes to become a teacher, less money than it takes to become a cop. Like, it doesn't cost a whole lot of money to take your 20-hour course, to study for your exam, to get hired on. However, because you're an entrepreneur and because this is now going to be your livelihood, and in many instances you're going to be 100% commission, you better have money saved up, not just to get through those first 6 months, where I doubt you'll make a whole lot, if any, money, but you need money on training, on conferences, on coaches, because conferences can introduce you to others who have already achieved where you're trying to go, at which point they can give you the confidence to keep going, as well as share with you some ideas that worked for them, that if you replicate it, you can follow in their footsteps. Training is going to give you the confidence you need to get out there and do your marketing, your networking, and your sales activity. And a good business coach, they will shorten your learning curve. They will increase your probability of success. They'll hold you accountable. They'll introduce you to thinking bigger. And they'll give you the confidence you need to keep going. But none of that comes without some form of a cost and some form of an investment. No different than you're going to need to get out and network with home builders and real estate agents and divorce attorneys and financial advisors. And at some point, you either have to pay to go to those networking functions, or you'll find yourself picking up the tab for that cup of coffee or that beer or glass of wine after work. So please understand, it takes money to make money. You should be investing in yourself and investing in the relationships that you're looking to build. Now, what's the payoff for all of this? How about having a career that's fulfilling? Having a career in which you are your boss. You set your schedule, you run your team, and the income potential through the roof. I know more people in this industry that make over $1 million a year than I do in any other industry combined. Making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, that is not uncommon. I joke that a mortgage loan originator who has made it at least 2 years into their career is probably at least making $100,000 a year. And if you made it through the first 2 years, they're probably not even working a solid 40 hours a week in order to make that $100,000 a year. Now, not all results are guaranteed, but I am telling you, the world, according to me and my 20 plus years experience, these are all things that I have seen firsthand. So this brings me back to the original question. Is becoming a mortgage loan originator a good career? Well, let's land this plane. Yes, it's a great career, but not for everyone. It rewards the learners, the persistent, and the givers. Love people, embrace hard things, play the long game. Don't do it alone. Community plus consistency, that's where you'll find your success. If you love people, love problem solving, and love a challenge, this industry will change your life. Thank you for tuning in to the DO Show. This is where we teach people just like you the stuff they don't teach you in school. Now go out there, get better, and keep chasing greatness.